My Gavan and Melanine, and well met indeed. I'm Arakir Galadirthan, the head of the modding team behind Divide and Conquer. Welcome back to Divide and Conquer as I bring you another developer diary with what has gone on since the last one. There's numerous changes, not too many on the campaign side, a few on the battle map side. I won't do the loading in between this time, I'll chop and change, so the video will have a few jarring screens, but I'll warn you before they come along. And I do hope that, Racer, you don't mind me showing off what is your child to the world, as the completion has just come, although I suppose it's now or way down the line. So to bring you, the main focus of today is, of course, the Blue Wizards. Now, the canned script at the moment, as said in the Dol Amroth video yesterday, is currently set to happen really early on for testing purposes. So I'm currently at turn 2, but do note that in your actual games, when version 2 comes to you, the Blue Wizard script is likely to be somewhere between 60 and 100 turns. I don't think we've actually settled on a turn number yet. We may have done and I've forgotten. I've dropped the ball heavily with modding, and to the rest of my modding team, I apologise, but I am busier and busier as time goes on with a real job for a change, and no longer a bumming around job. So, with no further ado, let's dive in with the Blue Wizard script. Now, Racer999 has done the entire script from scratch himself. So everyone needs to say thank you to him. He has saved DaC once again from the pits of scriptless modding. So we are indebted to him. And Lord of Links, one of our beta testers, I believe, has written all of the events, all of the text. Either a combination between Racer and Lord of Links. So very simply, of course, the Blue Wizards have been introduced into the game as a choice. So if you play as canned, at a certain point, as I've discussed a moment ago, the Blue Wizards will arrive. You will then be faced with a question. Do you side with them, or do you stand against them? And the first news... Now, do note that there are aspects of this script that are still in the works. Most prominently are the graphics, i.e. the UI, the user interface. We shorten it to UI, and it just basically means anything that you see that is a picture, 2D kind of work, that kind of stuff. So none of the UI is yet set, so what you're going to get is all the generic Medieval 2 UI. But the first note that you're going to know of this is rumours from the East. So as I say, ignore the image because that is a basic medieval feature. Khan! I bring to you news that could prove of dire consequence to us if it possesses verity. Rumours have reached us from the east, coming on trade caravans and spread across one clan to another through riders, speaking of great chaos and battles. Due to the many sources of these tales, their contents are contradictory and do not align with each other. Some speak of a great host of dwarves that have descended from the Oricani to pillage and devastate the clans. Others speak of clans that once sane have become mad overnight, turning away from the Dark Lord and forsaking their lands to wage war on their friends, or flee from the lands devoted to the Dark Tower. Most rumours speak of, however, 2 figures, clad in blue, that walk the plains, leaving naught but chaos in their wake. Some writers claim these are only servants of the Dark Tower that have been dispatched by the Dark Lord to test us, and if we yield to their offers, we shall be struck down by the Dark Lord, and our clan and its memory shall be purged and cast into oblivion. I, however, read in my youth of the Istari, an order of beings akin to the Dark Lord that serve the treacherous Valar and seek to cast our Lord into the abyss. I fear they may be of this order, and their aim is to seduce us away from the Dark Lord and deceive us into a war with the Tower. I have spoken to many riders, and rumours have been moving west towards us with the speed of our finest horses, so I fear we may be drawn into a confrontation with them very soon. And when that moment comes, we will be forced to yield to them or fight them, and the vast horde rumours state they have gathered. This should be a comma. And the vast horde, comma, rumours state they have gathered. So, that message is, whilst filled with flowery language, is actually correct. The Blue Wizards are coming for canned. They have rallied a horde of, in inverted commas, good forces, namely the Oricani, and they are heading to Middle-earth to finally do battle with Sauron, to complete their ancient mission. Obviously, again, there will be more turn times between these messages, but this is the second one. Khan! I am deeply sorry to interrupt your feast, but the Astari, the Blue Wizards I spoke of, have been sighted on the horizon and are fast approaching the camp. I fear we must make ourselves ready to receive them, as we cannot fight them with such short notice. Taking your throne, you made ready to entertain the Blue Wizards. After a few minutes, the 2 Astari swept into your tent. Clad in robes of sky blue and clutching simple staves carved of the dark wood of the plains, the 2 bowed to you and began to address you. O great Khan, leader of the diverse and mighty people of Khand, and your retinue, we are the Blue Wizards. I am Alatar, and my companion is Palando. We have come to you to ask of a harrowing task, one that will be the most difficult that you have ever faced, but in its undertaking your people shall become more prosperous, and your memory shall be enshrined in your legends for ages to come. We ask for you to abandon Sauron and join us. At the mention of the Dark Lord's name, some of your retinue jeered at the heretical act the Istari had committed. Others spat at the Istari due to their sheer absurdity of their request. Palando continued, undeterred by the jeering. We know this goes against all of your culture and your beliefs, but you serve a lord who treats you as mere pieces in a game of Shatar, willing to throw away as many lives as it takes without consideration, as long as he accomplishes his goals. Furthermore, he values you even less than he does his other servants, for you are divided and scattered, and in his eyes you are nothing compared to the unified hammers of Harad and Rhûn. It is to those two that shall be rewarded if Sauron claims dominion over Middle-earth. Your clan shall only be tossed the scraps. If you desert him, you can forge a new golden age for Khand, one in which you will be beholden to no one. Furthermore, not only shall we and our horde join you, for you are our final destination as the Khan, but the Oricani shall serve you, and they shall grant you the secrets of the crossbow if you do join with us. However, we fear we dwell too close to the shadow of Mordor, and Sauron will easily be able to send an Inquisitor to crush our rebellion. Hence, we shall need to fight against foes from every side. We know this is a huge decision for you, so we shall give you the night to think it over. The two Istari and your retinue left your tent, leaving you with your advisor. If you wish to accept the offer of the Istari, click the green tick. If you refuse, click the red cross. So, I won't read the next passage, but this is then the crux of it. The Istari arrive with this army. They tell you you need to abandon Sauron and join with them, essentially the good nations. You can then choose to either join with the Blue Wizards or stay loyal to Sauron. Joining with the Blue Wizards is what almost all of you will do, however, so we'll go along that line. So we've accepted their decision. We are now... Hostilities have ceased with the Kingdom of Gondor. A civil war erupts in our lands. The following morning you told the two Blue Wizards your answer to their proposal. Khand would join with them. Upon hearing this, the two Istari were struck speechless until Palando addressed you. Great Khan, know your decision is the right one. Despite choosing the hard path, the path that will demand a price in your people's blood at the end, they shall be prosperous, in a land where they shall be beholden to none but themselves. Alatar then continued, we, our clans, and the Oricani are now under your command, for together we shall strike a blow to the enemy that shall cripple him, and that blow shall shatter the manacles of slavery your people wear. We cannot linger here, however, for not all of your people will join us, for they are still blinded by the enemy's lies. An Inquisitor from Mordor shall be dispatched to quell our uprising. We must go to gather our force that awaits us. We shall return with reinforcements with utmost haste. Now, no. No, now. Your people will rebel against you, and those you once thought loyal will turn to the Dark Tower instead and attempt to kill you in the name of the enemy. And you shall even have to bear the brunt of the Temple Legions, commanded by a dread Inquisitor. Stand firm and await our coming. So, the Variags of Khand and Mordor, your alliance is shred. You are set to war with the Haven of Umbar. You are set to war with the Shadow of Mordor. You are set to hate the Easterlings and Harad. But from the messages you've seen, this is the Blue Wizard path. From that message, as you will note, the Blue Wizards are now off. And they will return with the army that they brought with them. And you will be gifted them. And hopefully it's only a few turns down the line. But I thought rather than just explain this in a standard me just reading from the page format, I'd at least show you what one of the paths kind of looks like. And this is what the paths do look like. This is the first time I'm seeing this, by the way, so I am as amazed by all of this as yourselves. Oh, 599 sets. People killed in Kizilcum, people killed in Chelkar. Rioting is ensuing throughout our lands. Our diplomacy now stands. Enemies with the Easterlings, Mordor, Harad, Umbar, and the rebels, of course. But we are no longer enemies with Gondor. Excuse me, sorry. As with the previous developer diary, I will, of course, put timestamps in for each feature.
Our foes dare to besiege us.
And the rebels that have stayed loyal to Sauron are besieging Kizilcum and Chelkar. Big armies as well. Oh, and Oibamari is now coming under the Kosh. Under the Kosh. As is Amukhand. No, rebellion is spreading throughout our lands. Where are the blue wizards? Oibamari has unrest. Amukan has unrest. Who is besieging Kizilcum?
I have nothing.
An army of loyalist clansmen with hosts of orcs from Mordor. This is madness.
I am here only
Led by a
fight it,
hailstorm.
not to banter.
Variag nobles. Pretenders to the very seat of the Khan's throne. I am thoroughly excited. I don't know if you can tell. As I say, this is literally the first time I've actually seen this in action, which is a failing on my part, really. But then at least you get to see the interesting bits. Hailstorm is taken. Chelkar, of course. I'm going to do the battles. Chelkar falls. Kizilcum falls to Helm. Rebels claiming our lands back. And there goes Kizilcum. And Oibamari becomes attacked as well.
The enemy lay siege. We will show them no fear.
Amukan comes under attack as well.
Our foes dare to besiege us.
The
When
turn
they
times are only a
strike,
few seconds long other
so
than the
will we.
saving, so we will just go through this way. But I will, as I say, I'll cut out the loading between the battle map side, and there's various battle maps I'm going to show today, so... Stelutza Khan now also falling. We don't have any other towns, do we, actually? We're going to have to cheat to win one of these victories, otherwise Khan's going to be defeated, and you'll never see the actual script. But that's right, we'll do that in a minute. So we're still waiting on the Blue Wizards as those loyal to Sauron begin claiming our heartlands.
A terrible sight.
Let's win this one.
Surrounds our walls.
Amukan stays. It cycles through again. They've not attacked us in Oibamari, interestingly. It ensues up there. And he has arrived. Faction announcements. Some people are doing well. Diplomatic info. That's nothing to do with us. But Ankanta has arrived. Ankanta, Inquisitor of Sauron. Look at what he brings. Christ alive. Great beasts. Temple marksmen. Temple wards. Uruks aplenty. Some bloody Sauron's will are in there. 2 units of troll catapults. And Ankanta's bodyguard are Temple Knights. Mounted Black Numenorians, new name for them. There is his unique strategy model as well, just to really top it all off. And where are our supports? Where are these damned blue wizards? Ankanta attacks. But we will auto-win. Take your army back. We've succeeded. So soon. Soon. Gifts from the Astari. Now that you stand beholding a vast horde of dwarves, common men and women of Khan, and the lords that did not flee from your sight after you chose your path. Turn traitor and ran to Mordor. At long last, the promised reinforcements have arrived. Yes, to bolster your own forces. You can now build Orokani halls in Stelutza-Khand, Amukhand, and Oibamari. You have abandoned the worship of Melkor and embraced a new culture, the culture of Northmen. Despite attacks from forces of the Lords loyal to the enemy, your treacherous advisor, and even a dread Inquisitor, your resolve remains unshaken, for this decision will lead to a golden age. And we return to our lands. We're still under attack from rebels, and there we go. This concludes the Blue Wizards, and they have arrived. Courtesy of Hummingbird, they are actually unique. Palando on the left-hand side there. Palando looking very good indeed. He comes with Blacklock Engineers as his bodyguard. And Alatar, slightly younger in age and look, but his Racer and Hummingbird have done so well to match the portrait to the colouring. And Alatar comes with Orokani Nobles. And you get these 2 hordes. You have to survive, but you survive and you get them. And that's it, essentially. But remember, this all happens way later into the campaign, so it will be around 80, 90, something like that. So by that time, you're likely to have already attacked Gondor. You'd be at war with them. Excuse me, sorry. You'd be at war with Gondor. Probably Dol Amroth. You may have actually already backstabbed Mordor. We'll talk about that in a moment. And in places like Sturlatsakand, you can then get the Orokani clan halls, which can then be upgraded as well. But that is not all. You also get the Ushishia Storm Riders. I'll show you these on the other half. I know we for ages we were keeping everything about Khand secret, and now here I am unveiling everything. But there we are, there won't be any secrets. But this unit was kept under the radar for a long time. Many of you will not even think of what it is. Now, you may just think that it's crossbow-wielding women on a chariot, but you wait till you see what they can do in battle. So the Ushishia, which is just a bastardization of a Mongol clan and a Chinese name. But they are essentially a clan brought from the east. They're not Khandish. They are from elsewhere, and they've come to join you. But of course, the bulk of it is that you get the dwarves. So Alatar and Palando join you. And they have dwarven bodyguards each, and they come with armies of dwarves, and you can now train dwarves. But this is not all. So now to just list your benefits for you. If you've sided with the Blue Wizards, you go to war with Umbar, Harad, Rhûn, and Mordor. You are set to war with them. You don't get a choice. But you can now train the chariot, the Ushishia Storm Riders. That building becomes available to you. Or that unit, sorry. It comes from the highest tier of your barracks. And it is an outrageously good chariot. Way better than the runic one, as you'll see in a moment. Additionally, you can get the Orokani Hall in Sturlatsakand, Amukhand, and Oibamari, the 3 regions that border what isn't really Orokani at all, but is the closest point you can get to it. So the dwarves are quite far away, but remember your battle line has probably just changed from Gondor, maybe even Rohan, depending on how aggressive you are, to suddenly your heartland. So the dwarves will play a big part in ensuring you survive against what will be... Because remember, Mordor, Harad, and Rhûn will all be vast nations by the 80th odd turn. And it's going to be a real challenge. But not only this, but siding with the dwarves means that you now get better mining bonuses. So whereas before the income on your mines, I need to edit that properly, but that gives you the idea. If you hadn't sided with the dwarves, this mine gives you only 50 resource bonus, 50 income bonus. When you side with the dwarves, it jumps up to 200. So your mining across the board improves because you've sided, obviously, with the Orokani. They've given you their knowledge. Additionally, links now out to the east that were previously unavailable mean that your marketplace, the market building, now gives an increase in tradable goods that is far larger than it was before. Now, that obviously isn't represented properly because it always just says increase in tradable goods no matter what the actual number. But rest assured, it does boost. Now, again, I need to amend those so that they actually work as they're supposed to. But that's by the by. We're still testing the Blue Wizards, but it's pretty much a workable point, as you've just seen. Additionally, of course, there's the rebellion that you have to face. Your 5 main starting regions, Chelkar, Kizilkum, Sturlatsakand, Amukhand, and Oibamari, are all attacked. You then have to decide what you're going to do with these 4 rebel armies, and of course, Ankanta, the Inquisitor of Mordor, who attacks Sturlatsakand. And lastly, the Blue Wizards join you. So those are all the pros of choosing the Blue Wizards. But now, just to run through the other way, I won't go back and run through it the other way. I'll leave at least that much a surprise for you. But if you decide to stay loyal, the following happens. It's essentially exactly the same, except the army that attacks Sturlatsakand is the 2 Blue Wizards. So rather than 5 areas being attacked, only your capital gets attacked, but it gets attacked by 2 vast armies. Basically, these 2 armies attack your capital, rather than Ankanta. Ankanta then actually joins you, so you get the army that Ankanta attacked our capital with, that joins you, and he becomes a general for Khand. Upon successfully killing off the Blue Wizards, therefore staying loyal to Mordor, you are then able to build the Dark Tower, or I believe I called it the Dark Temple now, which is the building in Durthang which creates the blue Numenorians? The Dark Numenorians. So you can then train Dark Numenorians, which helps plug the gap of poor infantry for Khand a little bit, which is essentially exactly what the Orokani do as well. But not only that, but you can also now train the Great Beasts. They join Khand as well. So your already substantially superior cavalry force gains an even bigger boost because the Great Beasts come to you as well. Furthermore, you are then able to build cities, because Khand at the moment are locked off at Large Town. They are a Wildmen faction. They are the evil Wildmen faction. They can't go higher than Large Town. when you side with Mordor, you can then bump up to city. So essentially Sauron, let's say, shares knowledge with you, or he sends more slaves out to bolster your regions in an attempt to ensure loyalty or whatever, and it allows you to build cities. So you get all the economical bonuses that a city would bring. And lastly, it allows you to train boats. And this is because if you stay loyal to Mordor, of course, your main heartland is still miles away from the front lines, because Gondor will likely still be your front line, maybe Dorwinion. And in both of these locations, it's going to be much better if you could get a port and then sail your forces across into the heartlands of each of these regions. So sailing up to Dale or sailing over to Gondor. So the last aspect is you are then able to build boats. So let's assume that the Dark Númenóreans share their knowledge with you. Because of course the Númenóreans are great seafarers. Poor cavalrymen, but great seafarers. Whereas the orcs actually are afraid of water. It is expressly written. So Sauron's not teaching you how to build boats, but the Dark Númenóreans are. So those are the two choices. Sorry, I've hit the microphone. Those are the two options. That is the Blue Wizard script. I do hope you enjoy it. I hope it brings some fun to Canned. I've had very little to do with it. Mine a little bit of coding here and there, so don't heap praise on me. Please put all the praise on Hummingbird and Racer. Racer for all of the scripting work, and Hummingbird for bringing these three characters to life. And, of course, the Ushishia chariots, which, as you'll see on the other half in a moment, are phenomenal. When the Khan chose to side with the Blue Wizards, many fearsome warriors came with the two Maya, and none are more mysterious or feared than the women of the Ushishia clan. Defying all known warring convention, the clan sends its women to war alongside the men. These feared warriors are like a storm. Their charge decimates enemy battalions when used correctly, and their crossbows, gifted to them by the Oricani, ensure that long after any archer has run out of arrows, they will continue to fire deadly bolts, that though slow to fire, can punch through even the heaviest armor. This barrage of bolts is made even more deadly due to their mobility, and only enemy cavalry stands a chance of catching up to these riders. They're a deadly foe that the Shadow would do well to fear, for they are well equipped for trample both its weaker hordes and pierce the armor of its elite troops. So, those are the Blue Wizards. Right, there's a few other bits and bobs about the campaign I can tell you about, and we can start with Canned actually. And the first is the armory building. I did say this in the Dol Amroth video, apologies, but I will say it again. The armory building, which is the Garrison Quarters. So this is the building that gives you the garrison, and there's its upgrade there. It gives you the garrison. Now this hasn't got UI yet, we haven't added it in yet. But this building now requires land clearance and the meeting hall. So in order to build the Garrison Quarters, which is now far more expensive as well, it costs 2,500, takes 3 turns to build in a town, and lowers your income by 100, but gives you a public order bonus. You now need the first tier of the farms and the first tier of the town hall to build it. Now do note that if you're ever wondering how can I build a building, just come to its selection here and click on it. Now other than a guild, it will just tell you how you can build it. So it requires meeting hall, land clearance. And the second tier requires a great hall, which is a tier of the town hall, the third one along. So that's the Garrison Hall, that's been changed. In a castle, it requires the first tier of farms and the blacksmith, rather than the castle hall. So in a castle, it will require farms and a blacksmith. As you will see from here, Garrison Quarters requires a leather tanner. Now, it says it only requires a leather tanner, but when you go to the smith and click on leather tanner, that requires land clearance. So in both cases, the Garrison Hall is now only to be built once your town has something worth defending. That's the notion. The idea is that why would you build garrison troops in a village that does nothing for your empire? It's got maybe 100 people living in it, just getting on with their lives. You wouldn't. But once it gets a town hall and it gets farming and it starts contributing, you would then decide to defend it. And that's the point. Another change is that all militia troops now come out of the town hall. They no longer come out of the farms, and the farms have lost any military bonus whatsoever. They only give food production now. The town hall now gives you your recruitment slots, your free upkeep, and your militia. So for Canned, it's step archers, step tribesmen, marauders, and of course, all you can always train your generals out of town halls as well. So that's the other point to note. Town halls now house all of your militia moving forward. You won't get them in farms, so do bear that in mind. And the final point comes with Angmar. You'll see Angmar again in a moment on the other half, but first and foremost is that Angmar has a new building. And this building is called the Rhudaur Barracks, and I will just jump to them and show you what it looks like. So, to Angmar, the new building is called the Hillman Camp. and this now recruits all of your Rhudauran forces. They no longer come at all from your Garrison Quarters. Additionally, they are no longer restricted to Rhudaur only, which is the Hills of Rhudaur, the Woods of Rhudaur, Etten Moors, I believe Rhudaur Lowlands, and Mountains of Angmar and Mountains of Gram. So they're no longer restricted to these regions. They can now be built anywhere from this barracks. It has a second tier which isn't available until after the barracks event, and that gives you the archers and the swordsmen. So from the main camp you get hillmen, which are your standard like peasant spearmen. You get Rhudaur savages, which are a very good shock infantry unit. You get Rhudaur pikemen, a very good pike infantry unit, and Rhudaur skirmishers, who are the javelin and then axe and sword unit. And they all come in the first tier, and in the second tier you get the archers and the elite swordmen. But this is not all. There is a new unit added to Angmar, which does not start with Overlord Agendaur. It will start with someone else, which will be discussed way down the line, and you can't actually currently see it yet because the UI hasn't been amended. But I'll show you that in the second half. So there's a new unit for Angmar, which is reasonably Rhudauran based, and it will be related to a script coming in the future, which I'll show you on the second half in the battle map of this episode, of course. So I think that's everything for the campaign map. Blue Wizards covered. Garrison Hall, Town Hall now has your militia. Garrison Quarters now requires certain buildings to be built, and Angmar now get a Rhudaur Barracks specifically for the training of Rhudaur units. So, on to the battle map then, and we will start with the new runic arrow. See you there. Welcome to this little overview then of Rune. As promised, the fire arrow has been removed from the game, but not for everyone. Rune have been given the fire arrow as their dedicated arrow. But first of all, I just want to show you, so first what you're seeing is obviously the fire arrow in effect, but also what you're currently seeing is a new custom arrow, although graphically it's identical, but the Suryut chariots now use a new custom style arrow that really beefs up their ability in battle. And as you will note, their fire arrow hits more than one unit at a time. And this is basically because whilst they are devastating in melee, they are absolutely atrocious at range, because they have like 8 archers or something per battalion. 10 archers, sorry, which is absolutely abysmal. So they've been given a custom arrow that just beefs up their ability in battle and makes them a little bit better. So they're really rare, remember. This is one of the points I have to say so much. It annoys me to no end. The game is not balanced for custom battle. It is balanced for the campaign. So even though this unit now basically has a body-piercing arrow that even has the ability to burn people, it's still such a rare unit that you're not going to be winning whole battles because of this. Likewise, the fire arrow that you can now see them all flaming at the enemy here, it will set enemies on fire, but only if it would kill them anyway. It also does not affect their morale in any way. So the fire arrow is basically just the standard fire arrow from before, except it fires at a normal time now. There's absolutely no delay on the fire arrow whatsoever, as you can see. And it will burn the enemies, just to give Rune that extra something. But it won't reduce their morale. So it's just it's just a fire arrow, and it just looks cool seeing whole battalions fire these arrows. It's really good. And of course the Suryut chariots firing away there with their even better version. I'd be tempted to try and find a way to separate the look of the Suryut arrow so that you know which ones are going to be doing a little bit better. And there is a suggestion that we might not give the fire arrow to the lowest units. It might only be the Loknarim and the Suryut chariot, which is likely to be the case, really. But to show you what it looks like here, we've got the militia firing it. Do note as well that your crossbowmen will not fire a fire arrow crossbow, and the Candish archers that you train will not fire fire arrows either. It is purely for Rune and no one else. So that is the fire arrow. But keeping with the vein of arrows, I want to show you something called the Eregnaur. Welcome. So, to those of you that don't speak Sindarin, we're going to look at the Eregnaur, which translates to English as Firethorn. Now, I did want to add a Silverthorn, but owing to a ridiculous system of how projectiles and things work, whenever I changed this aspect of the game, it would not edit it, and I was so irritated. But this works amazingly well. So before you actually really get to see this thing flying in, this is partially as a backlash to the number of people that keep banging on at me about how amazing this unit is and this unit is, whereas this faction's supposed to be the best at this. So, for example, the latest one is that someone was very irritated that the Bardian marksmen of Dale have the armor-piercing ability, when Dale are only a good human archer nation, whereas elves should be better than anyone at archery, and the person took great fault that a single unit of Dale had the armor-piercing ability, despite the fact that the elves should be the best. And when I was fiddling with the runic fire arrow, it made me think, what about adding a potentially boosted arrow to 2 units in the game? And the 2 recipients of the Eregnaur are the Hinidaur, the Eyes of the Forest, the elite archers of Mirkwood, and the Lothlorien Rangers. These are the only 2 units that have this arrow. And the reason I've paused it is because the arrow is blindingly fast, and it's bloody difficult to keep up with it. But it is a Firethorn arrow. And what it does is it doesn't set anyone on fire or anything like that. It's purely a graphical change. And sometimes it doesn't even work. It's really, really bloody temperamental. But there you can see it. You only really ever get glimpses of it. And I just think it looks so good. It gives a little extra to their arrow that just sets their arrows apart from everyone else. And the reason it sets their arrows apart from everyone else, because as you will see, that the Hinidaur now have the ability to shoot their arrows through the enemy. Now this will be fiddled with, toned down. What you're seeing at the minute is a raw entry of this arrow, and they are firing against only Gondor militia. So I know it looks like they are decimating them, but do remember that you've got 4 battalions here shooting 1 battalion. This unit is also incredibly rare. It only comes from Mirkwood. It needs the post barracks event, and it needs the right tier of building as well. So it's very, very rare to have this unit in your battalion. But the Eregnaur, or the Firethorn arrow, has been added so far. And it is just a graphical little enhancement to the arrow that gives it that kind of fiery-ish effect. And the arrow now body pierces. But one other thing that you might be seeing here and thinking, oh, that looks a bit odd, is the arrow speed. In answer to the fact that the elves needed, again, apparently something to make them even better, the velocity of all elven arrows has been substantially improved. Now, you may not think that that really has any effect, but it does, because the archers won't fire until their first barrage has ended. So the fact that their arrows now fly roughly 3 times faster than they did before means that these units are now shooting roughly, not 3, it doesn't work out directly to 3 times faster, but they are now firing faster. And this is true of all elven arrows. So every single elven arrow in the game has been sped up. Only the arrow, mind you. The elves already fire as fast as humanly possible, or as fast as elvenly possible. But now their arrows fly faster too. Now these are all subject to tweaks, of course. Some of you will look at this and think, my god, this unit is absolutely good, like ungodly how good it is. But equally, it's such a rare unit. It really is such a rare unit. And it just gives it that added oomph. It takes the best archer unit in the game stat-wise and really makes it the best archer unit in the game. I am very tempted to have this arrow ability for this unit only, because the Lothlorien Rangers are slightly more readily available than the Woodland Realm Rangers, and Lothlorien, well, the Woodland Realm in DaC's universe are the Archer Elf faction. So there's a strong chance it will be for this unit only. But I do hope that you enjoyed looking at it there. Well, now we'll jump over to the Ushishia chariots. Here we are. Ushishia Storm Riders. They are the answer for Khan's betrayal. They are what you get should you side with the Blue Wizards. Of course, you also get the Oricani, but you also then get these ladies. And they are indeed ladies.
We must fight. Rally together. Ride.
So they do actually sound like females. They have quite a short range, but you wait until these guys fire. Now, there's nothing graphically, again, about their arrow that separates it from anything else. It's a standard arrow. But, when they fire it, let's just speed it up so they shoot a bit quicker. They have also been given a boost to their bolt velocity speed. So the crossbow bolt from them fires slightly faster. And once again, the only real trait we can ever really give arrows, we can fiddle around with the mass of the arrow and the radius of the arrow, so we can make it hit like 5 people at the point that it hits, and we can make them a body piercing. So these guys aren't actually outrageously powerful, but they are damned good. And what separates them from the Suryut chariots is that these gentlemen, or sorry, these ladies rather, are armor piercing. They're crossbows, of course, so they do fire slower. But their velocity is quite high, so the arrow rips through the enemy, and it is body piercing and armor piercing. Oh, they've killed themselves. And of course, like all cavalry archers, they can shoot on the move. But they do unfortunately seem to have a tendency of killing themselves because their bolt is now so powerful. But these are the Ushishia Riders, Storm Riders to be precise. They are a blending of a tribe from way out east that share minor resemblances to Khand and Rune, but they aren't immediately identifiable as either of them. And they have crossbows from the Oricani. So those are the riders, the gift for the Blue Wizards. Now, what I may well do is remove the body piercing from the Suryut chariots so that these ladies stand out even more. But without the body piercing of the Suryut chariots, their arrow can never really be made anything more than what it is. They will always be really subpar archers. And they're meant to be the reward for uniting all of Rune. So they're equally meant to be good. And what basically makes these people better is that they have more ammunition and they have armor piercing. And that's really the standout. They also fire their arrow much faster than the runic one. Another side effect of the faster firing arrows, certainly for the elves, is of course that they will now almost always win in an archer-archer battle because their arrows will hit first. So the faster firing of them will now give them that much needed boost. So finally then, I have 2 units to show you, and I can show you them in the same battle, and that is Angmar and Dol Guldur. So, the final segment then, Angmar and Dol Guldur each have new units. As you can already see from hovering away with the sprites, the Angmarim one is mounted, and the Dol Guldurian one is very large in number. But to put you out of your misery, because the UI, as you can see, has not been updated, neither has their description yet, but their name will stay the same. They are going to be called Guardians of Khandum. They are a cavalry unit, but they are no longer orcs. They are now Rhudaurans, riding atop the Nazgul horse, and they have the elite armor that the elites of Angmar have, but they just separate Angmar that little bit more from other orc nations, and they give the Guardians of Khandum a better purpose now, because the Guardians were a bit of a nothing unit, really. They were a clone of the bodyguard unit. They were only available in Khandum. They didn't add all that much, but now that they're an elite cavalry unit with a badass mace that is effective against armor, they now stand a much better chance. So that is what they were before, and that is what they are now. As you can see, the shield has been amended so that it better fits with the Rhudaur style shield, which I am pleased with, and seeing them in battle, I think it works really well. So you can't see it here, I should have got a man for comparison, but the elites of Rhudaur use that type of shield, but a wooden one. So continuing in that vein, as an upgrade from them, they then have a metal one. They got some fur trim around their capes, keeping them warm in the cold northern winters. And as I say, they use the Nazgul horse, which gives them a huge boost. They are available from Khandum only, but they will be a bodyguard unit in the future. Not for your standard bodyguards, but for someone very special indeed. And for Dol Guldur, it is nothing really major, a little bit of extra trash. Dol Guldur Scouts. These are a javelin equivalent of the Dol Guldur... what are they called? Rabble? Dol Guldur Hunters? I can't quite remember. But basically the Dol Guldur equivalent of Snagga. These are they. They're slightly better than Snagga, it has to be said. Dol Guldur has slightly better trash. And they just give a javelin unit in the early stages. They do look slightly different with their leather caps. And their armour looks a little bit more similar to the Uruks, the Dol Guldur Uruk Horde, rather than the Dol Guldur like Scouts and Ranger Prey unit, whatever they're called, Hunters. I think it is Hunters. So they're a very early tier available unit for Dol Guldur. And just to appease everyone, let's smash these buggers with some Guardians of Khandum. Speed it up a bit, get the middle ground out of the way. Here we go. Dol Guldur Scouts, Javelins of Dol Guldur versus the new Guardians of Khandum. Although they're going to get a javelin throw off first, I wonder. Oh, they are indeed. But it does not do anything. And in they crush them. Look at that. 204 scouts cut down to 114 in a single charge. And then their mace-wielding warriors start crushing them. Javelins flying over the top there. But it is all for naught. And that concludes today's developer diary. So hopefully slightly shorter. I don't know how long this has been. Plenty of cool changes have gone in. there is still more to talk about moving forward. The next focus for the team will likely be, we're just going to polish off the blue wizards, keep working through our to-do list, which has been there for a while. Things like sprites and the odd sound problem and text. There's always a lot of text things to do. But the next major thing will be Angmar, and why I keep banging on and alluding to what these guys are going to do. And then beyond that, we will work with our Imladris scripts that we've spoken of greatly and has been shown in various videos. And spoken of in various videos, and that of course is the notion that Imladris will have locked recruitment until the twins unlock it. But we will move on to that. But for now, that will be everything. So I do hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I look forward to hearing your feedback on everything you've seen. And I do hope you will stick with us as we continue now on to make extra changes and more changes going forward. And I do hope you'll stick with me as I now continue in this little cycle with our continuation of Dol Amroth Total War, and then back to the simple lives of the Brelanders. But until then, dear friends, Navar Naden Perimad Melonin, and farewell.